Hello, my friend. Welcome to the calm night, a place for calm moments and quiet nights. My name is Daniel, and it's a quiet privilege to be the voice that gently guides you as you drift toward sleep tonight. Tonight's story is a gentle one, a warm one. It's told slowly, with no rush and no effort required. You don't need to imagine everything clearly. You don't need to follow every word. Just allow my voice to be a steady presence, something safe to rest beside as the day loosens its grip and the night opens its arms. Before we begin the story itself, we'll take a few minutes together to settle your body and quiet your mind. Nothing complicated, nothing forced, just an easing into rest. Wherever you are right now, allow your body to be exactly as it is. You might be lying down, you might be propped up with pillows, you might even be sitting comfortably. However you've arrived here tonight is completely fine. Begin by noticing the surface beneath you, the bed, the couch, the floor. Feel how it supports you without asking for anything in return. There's nothing you need to hold up right now, nothing you need to keep together. Let the weight of your body sink down, as though gravity itself has decided to take care of you for a while. Now, gently bring your attention to your breath. There's no need to change it. Just notice it, the slow movement in and the easy release out. If you'd like, you can take one slightly deeper breath in through your nose and let it fall out through your mouth. Again, whenever you're ready, a calm breath in and a soft breath out. And one more, just like that. With each breath in, imagine the day setting itself down beside you. Things you thought about, things you carried, moments that asked something of you. They can wait. Tonight doesn't require anything from you at all. Now, gently bring awareness to your body. Starting at the top of your head, notice your forehead, your eyes, your jaw. If there's any tightness there, imagine it softening, melting, loosening. Let your shoulders drop slightly, as if they no longer need to be alert. Feel that release travel down your arms, through your elbows, into your hands. Your fingers don't need to hold on to anything now. Bring that same gentle awareness to your chest and your belly. Notice the rise and fall of your breathing there. With every exhale, your body knows how to let go. Just a little bit more. Now, down through your hips, your legs, your knees, and all the way to your feet. Let everything feel heavy in the best possible way. Supported, held, safe. If thoughts drift in, that's okay. They always do. There's no need to push them away. Just notice them and let them float past like leaves moving slowly along water. Nothing to solve, nothing to finish. You're allowed to rest now. And as you continue resting, I'll begin tonight's story. The dog noticed the warmth first. Not the fire itself, but the way the room felt different because of it. Warmth meant safety. Warmth meant staying. The cedar cabin had that kind of warmth, the kind that settled into the walls and stayed there, even when the wind moved through the trees outside. The dog lay stretched out on the wooden floor, one paw tucked beneath his chest, the other resting loosely ahead of him. He wasn't asleep, not exactly. His eyes were open, but only just open enough to confirm that everything was as it should be. The fire crackled softly in the stone fireplace, sending out small sounds that required no attention. Pop, settle, sigh. Those sounds were important, even if the dog didn't think about them directly. Fire sounds meant evening. Evening meant nothing more was expected. Somewhere behind him, the man moved quietly through the cabin. Not in a hurry, not trying to be silent either. Just moving in the way people do when the day is finished and there's nowhere else to be. The dog's ears shifted slightly. Not enough to lift his head, just enough to acknowledge the movement. Movement didn't always mean something needed to happen. Sometimes it just meant the world was continuing in a comfortable way. The cabin smelled like cedar and smoke, with a trace of something warm from the kitchen. The dog breathed it in slowly. Smells were important information. Cedar meant walls. Walls meant shelter. Smoke meant fire. And fire meant warmth. And warmth meant staying exactly where he was. Outside, beyond the thick windows, the forest leaned towards the sea. The dog didn't know this in words, but he knew it in feeling. The air carried that edge, that mix of salt and earth that told him water wasn't far away. Sometimes the wind brought the sound of waves, low and steady, arriving and leaving, without needing permission. Other times, it was just the trees whispering together in their long, slow language. The dog liked those sounds. They didn't interrupt anything. They belonged to the night. He shifted slightly, his paws adjusting against the smooth wood. The floor was cool in places, warm in others, heated unevenly by the fire. That was good. Variety mattered. Too much warmth all at once meant you had to move. This warmth allowed Stain. His tail rested loosely behind him, not wagging, not stiff, just there. The man set something down on the table, a quiet sound. The dog didn't look. Looking required effort. If something important was happening, the man would say something, or there would be a sound worth investigating. This wasn't one of those sounds. The dog's eyes drifted closed, then opened again, just to check. Fire still there, cabin still steady, man still nearby. All was well. He rested his chin on his paws. The day had been a good one, not because anything special happened, but because nothing had gone wrong. Those were the best kind of days. There had been a walk earlier, slow and unimportant. The dog remembered the way the ground felt under his paws, soft in places, springy with needles in others. He remembered stopping for reasons that made sense at the time. A smell, a sound, a moment that felt like it needed attention. No one had rushed him, and that mattered. Now, in the cabin, the night felt wide and gentle. The man settled into a chair near the fire. The wood creaked softly beneath his weight. That sound, that particular creak, meant the man was staying too. Staying together was the whole point of evenings like these. The dog's breathing slowed without him noticing. Each breath matched the rhythm of the room. Fire, breath, stillness. Outside, the light was fading completely now. The forest churning into shapes rather than details. Inside, the fire became the brightest thing, and the dog instinctively angled his body just enough to catch its warmth along his side. His eyelids grew heavier, not because he decided to sleep, but because everything told him there was no reason not to. The night had arrived, the cabin was holding, and the world for now was exactly the right size. The dog didn't fall asleep all at once. Sleep, he knew, was something you eased into, like lowering yourself into water that had already decided to be warm. His eyes closed again, this time staying closed a little longer. Not fully, just enough. The fire shifted, settling deeper into itself. Somewhere in the forest outside, a branch released the weight of the day and dropped softly to the ground. The dog's ears twitched, not alarmed, just acknowledging the sound. Night sounds didn't need attention, they only needed space. The man reached for a blanket, the fabric making a low, familiar whisper as it unfolded. That sound, that particular sound, meant the evening was truly done. No more standing, no more moving with purpose. The dog stretched one hind leg slowly, carefully, testing the length of his body against the floor. Stretching was important. It reminded him that he was still here, still whole, still exactly where he belonged. His paws pressed into the wood for a moment, pads warm, claws just barely catching. Then he relaxed again, the stretch melting out of him like a long sigh. He opened one eye. The man sat quietly now, blanket draped across his legs, firelight moving gently across his face. The man's eyes were open, but unfocused, the way eyes get when the mind has wandered somewhere peaceful. Good, the dog thought, not in words, but in a feeling that settled comfortably in his chest. Good meant nothing needed to change. The dog stood up slowly, not because he had to, but because standing felt like the right next thing. His joints protested just a little, a familiar complaint, one he accepted without argument. He shook once, gently, the movement traveling from his shoulders, down through his ribs, and out through his tail. The cabin absorbed the sound, no echoes, no sharpness, just wood and warmth and quiet. He padded across the room, each step placed with care. The floor was cooler, farther away from the fire, and the contrast felt pleasant against his paws. He paused near the window, nose lifting slightly as he breathed in. The forest smelled darker now. Damp earth, salt carried on the wind, pine and cedar leaning into one another. The sea was out there somewhere, steady and patient. The dog didn't need to see it to know it was there. He pressed his nose briefly to the glass, then turned away. Cold surfaces weren't meant for lingering. Instead, he wandered toward the chair, circling it once, then again. Each loop slower than the last. The man noticed. He always did. Without looking down, the man shifted his feet slightly, making room. An invitation. The dog lowered himself carefully, backing into the space beside the chair. He didn't climb into the lap. That wasn't necessary. Being close was enough. His body leaned lightly against the man's legs, the blanket brushing his back. That contact, that steady, familiar weight was better than sleep. The dog exhaled, a deep, full breath that emptied him of everything unnecessary. The man's hand rested briefly on the dog's head, fingers moving slowly between his ears. not petting, just resting. That was how evenings worked here. The dog's thoughts drifted, not as sentences, but as impressions. Warm floor, good fire, safe walls, outside sounds far away, inside sounds gentle. Nothing chasing, nothing missing. His eyelids grew heavy again. This time, they stayed closed. The fire cracked softly, sending a wave of warmth through the room. The man shifted once more, settling deeper into the chair. The dog adjusted instinctively, curling just enough to keep every important part warm. Tail tucked, paws close, back pressed against something solid. The cabin seemed to breathe with them, wood expanding, fire settling, wind moving past the windows without asking to come in. The night wrapped itself around the island, around the forest, around the small cedar cabin where nothing was required and everything was enough. The dog drifted, not fully asleep, not yet, just floating somewhere soft and slow, where time didn't matter and the world felt kind. Sleep arrived the way it always did for him, not suddenly, not all at once. It arrived in layers. First, his breathing changed. Each breath grew longer, rounder, as though his lungs had learned a new rhythm meant only for the night. In and out. The space between breaths widened, stretching gently, like the pause between waves meeting the shore. His body grew heavier, not heavy in a way that pressed, but heavy in a way that settled. Muscles that had carried him all day let go of their quiet responsibilities. Shoulders softened, jaw loosened. Even his ears relaxed, no longer angled toward the world, but folded comfortably into rest. The dog slipped beneath the surface of waking, and the cabin held him there. In sleep, his thoughts didn't become words, they became sensations. Warmth continued, steady, reliable. The fire still existed even when he wasn't watching it. That mattered. Somewhere in the deeper places of his mind, he remembered the forest. Not as it was now, dark and still, but as it had been earlier. Tall trees, breathing quietly. Moss, thick and cool beneath his paws. The faint salt of the sea drifting inland. He dreamed he was outside, not running, just standing. Standing in that place where the forest thins and the land begins to lean toward the water. The ground was soft, kind of soft that never surprises you. In this dream, his paws made no sound. The forest didn't need sound. Everything already understood itself. He took a few steps forward, nose low, tail relaxed. Nothing urgent waited for him. That too mattered. A breeze passed through the trees, bringing with it the scent of cedar, the same cedar that shaped the cabin. Inside and outside were not so different here. In the dream, he paused, not because something caught his attention, but because pausing felt right. Dogs knew these things. The breeze brushed through his fur, lifting it just enough to remind him that he was alive, satisfied. That was the feeling, satisfied and unbothered. Somewhere behind him, there was the sense of the man. Not a figure, not a shape, just a calming presence. The quiet certainty that someone familiar was nearby, that someone belonged. The dog didn't turn around. He didn't need to. Belonging didn't require looking. The dream shifted gently. Now he was back inside the cabin. Or perhaps the cabin had come outside. It was hard to tell. The floor beneath them felt warm again. The fire hummed low, a steady companion rather than a spectacle. In his dream, he circled once, then twice, every turn slower than the last. He lay down carefully, curling into himself. The firelight painted soft patterns behind his closed eyes. He heard the ocean now, not loud, just present. A distant breathing of the world. In the dream, the sound wrapped around him the way the blanket did in waking life. Secure, endless, kind. The dog's tail gave a small twitch, a ripple of contentment passing through him. His paws moved slightly, as though adjusting in sleep. A memory drifted by, not sharp enough to hold. A morning, a walk, a familiar path. The details didn't matter. Only the feeling remained. Good. Safe. Enough. The man shifted in his chair, but the movement barely touched the dog's dream. Even there, the dog knew the sound. It belonged. Nothing changed. Sleep deepened. The world narrowed to warmth and breath and the soft pulse of comfort. The dog no longer floated. He rested, fully, completely. And the night carried on around him, doing what nights do best, holding everything gently until morning remembered how to arrive. Somewhere between dreaming and sleeping, the dog's thoughts began to wander, not in sentences, not in questions, They wandered the way paws wander when there's no leash and no destination. A slow meandering of the mind. In this place, time behaved differently. Moments stretched, then folded back in on themselves. The dog did not notice. He never did. He dreamed of the cabin again, but now it was brighter. Not daytime bright, just the kind of brightness that exists inside a comfortable memory. The fire was still there. It always was. In this dream, he approached it carefully, as though it might move if startled. It didn't. Fires never did. They understood patience. He sat down in front of it, tail curled neatly around his body. The warmth reached his chest, then his belly, then slowly traveled all the way up to his paws. Yes, that was the best part. Warm paws, a very good thing. In the dream, he stretched one paw forward, just a little too close. The fire popped softly, not angrily, not dangerously, just enough to say, "I'm here." The dog pulled his paw back, satisfied. No harm done. He sighed. That deep, dramatic sigh dogs reserve for moments when life is going particularly well. Somewhere behind him, there was a smell. Food. Not present food, but remembered food. The kind that lingers in the corners of thought. Something warm, something chewy. The dog's ear twitched. In the dream, he considered standing up. He did not. Standing was optional in dreams. He decided the food would wait. Food usually did. The dream shifted again. Now the cabin seemed larger. Rooms stretched farther than they should. Hallways appeared where there hadn't been any. The dog wandered through them slowly, nose low, paws quiet. Every room smelled like home. One room smelled faintly of cedar and wool. Another carried the echo of boots left by the door. There was a corner with a blanket, his blanket, even though no one had ever said so out loud. In the dream, he walked into that corner and turned in a careful circle. Once, twice, 3 times just to be sure. Then he lay down, satisfied again. The cabin creaked softly, settling into the night. The sound didn't bother him. Cabins were allowed to make sounds. They were old. Old things earned the right to sigh. Outside the window, the forest existed. That was enough. Trees stood where trees belonged. The ocean continued its endless, gentle conversation with the shore. Crickets, to themselves carefully, then played only the quiet notes. Nothing surprising happened, which was exactly how the dog liked it. In the dream, he felt the man nearby again. Not moving, just being. The man's presence wrapped around the cabin the way the fire did. Not loud, not demanding, just steady. The dog padded over and rested his head against the man's leg. No words, no expectations, just contact. That small, perfect connection that required nothing more. In the waking world, the dog shifted slightly by the fire. His breathing deepened, one paw stretched outward, then relaxed again. His mouth opened just a little, as though he might smile, if dogs ever felt the need to explain themselves. A tiny sound escaped him, half a sigh, half dream. The kind of sound that meant everything was exactly as it should be. Sleep pulled him further now. Thoughts thinned, images softened. The cabin faded to warmth and shadow. The forest became scent rather than shape. And the ocean turned into rhythm alone. And the dog drifted deeper still, carried gently by the night, with nothing to guard, nothing to fetch, nothing to solve. Just rest, just warmth, just the quiet joy of being exactly where he belonged. Eventually, even dreams grew tired. The dog no longer followed them. They drifted past instead, like leaves on water, noticed only briefly before floating away. The fire in his dream became quieter. No more popping, no more shifting. Just a steady, low glow. The kind of glow that doesn't need attention. The cabin felt smaller now. Not because it had shrunk, but because everything unnecessary had faded. Walls were just warmth. The ceiling was just shadow. The windows no longer showed anything at all. There was no need. Outside could wait. Inside was enough. The dog's breathing slowed further. In and out. In and out. Each breath landed gently, as if it knew not to disturb anything. His body felt heavy, not uncomfortable, not stuck, just pleasantly anchored, like a stone resting at the bottom of a clear stream, aware of the water moving above it, but untouched by the current. His paws twitched once, a small memory of movement. Then they were still again. If there were thoughts now, They were very simple. Warm, safe, here. That was all. Time lost its shape. Moments no longer followed one another. They simply existed. The dog did not care how long he had been sleeping. He never did. The fire burned lower, not dying, just resting. The cabin responded in kind. A soft creak, a long, settling sigh. The kind that happens when a place finally believes the night is here to stay. Somewhere far away, so far it barely mattered, a wave met the shore. Not loudly, just enough to keep the rhythm alive. The forest leaned inward. Trees held their breath. Even the wind moved more carefully now, sliding between branches instead of pushing through them. Everything was cooperating. That was important. The dog sank deeper. Muscles loosened. His jaw relaxed. His ears rested naturally against his head. If someone were watching, they would see a creature entirely at peace. Not waiting, not listening, not ready. Just being. In this depth of sleep, the dog no longer dreamed of the cabin. He no longer dreamed of the man. He did not dream of food, or warmth, or movement. Those things had done their job. Now, there was only rest. A quiet, dark softness that wrapped around him completely. The kind of sleep that does not ask questions. The kind that does not need stories. The kind that arrives when the world feels trustworthy again. The fire faded into warmth alone. The cabin dissolved into safety. The night carried everything else away. And the dog slept on, deep and steady, held gently by the quiet, with nothing left to do but rest. Nothing needed to happen. That was the feeling now. Not because everything had happened, but because nothing else mattered. The dog rested without weight, not floating, not sinking, just resting. His breathing was slow and even. So slow, it felt like the night itself was breathing with him. In and out. In and out. Each breath smoothed the edges of the world. The fire no longer flickered. It was simply warm. The kind of warmth that doesn't move, doesn't change, doesn't ask for attention. The cabin held the warmth quietly. No creaks now, no settling. Everything had had already settled. The walls knew their job. The floor supported without effort. The ceiling stayed where it was meant to be. Outside, the forest forgot itself. Trees leaned, branches rested. Even the sea softened its voice. Wave after wave arrived with less intention, more patience. The rhythm slowed, not stopping, just stretching. The dog's paws felt distant now, not gone, just unimportant. His body existed as a single calm shape. No edges, no tension, only presence. If a thought appeared, it did not stay long. It arrived quietly and left even more quietly. There was no reason to follow it. The dog had learned that. Sleep had taught him. Time lost its meaning completely. There was no before. There was no after. Only the steady, unchanging calm. The fire warmed. The cabin held. The night watched over everything. The dog rested deeper still, so deep that even rest became effortless. Nothing pulled at him. Nothing asked him to return. Nothing needed him, and he was perfectly content with that. In and out, in and out. The breath moved on its own now. The body followed. Awareness softened. Edges blurred. The world became very simple. Warmth, dark, stillness. The dog slept and slept and slept. The dog no longer noticed the fire. It was still there, still warm, still steady, but it no longer needed his attention. The cabin remained solid, quiet, unmoving. It had nothing more to say. The night wrapped itself around everything. Not tightly, not completely, just enough. Breathing continued, slow, unforced, in and out, in and out. Each breath drifted a little deeper than the last. Thoughts, if they came, arrived like distant sounds from another room. Muffled, unimportant. They passed without meaning. The dog rested beneath them. Safe, warm, unconcerned. Nothing needed to be remembered. Nothing needed to be planned. Nothing waited on the other side of sleep. The world could hold itself for a while. The forest did. The sea did. The cabin did. The night did. The dog trusted that. He always had. His body softened completely now. No effort, no adjustment, no awareness of weight or position. Just the gentle sense of being held. Held by the floor, held by the air, held by the quiet, in and out, in and out. The rhythm slowed again. Longer pauses, gentler movement, as if the breath itself were resting. Time loosened, moments stretched, nothing changed, and that was perfect. The dog slept deeply, comfortably, without thought, without dream, just rest, just warmth, just night. And if anything stirred beyond the cabin, beyond the forest, beyond the shore, it waited. Everything waited, because this moment belonged to sleep, and sleep had already arrived.